revered monks, and, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. A very good evening to all of you. I'm delighted to be here amongst you to speak about a subject which is very close to my heart. I'll take my own angle on the subject. You see, what we are trying to do here in Vedanta is first of all cultivate a spiritual mind, the mind of a yogi. And what is this mind of a yogi? I think it's best illustrated by an experience I had about 9 years ago in the high Himalayas in Gangotri, the source of Ganga. Some of you may have gone there. I was there for about a month, just in the rainy season, just after summer. And one day I was sitting near the Ganga. I mean, the conditions there, it's like I was living in a log cabin. There's no electricity there. There's no furniture also. There's no beds or chairs or tables. You lie down on the ground. There are a few no bedding also, but a few blankets are provided. So you lie on the ground, on some blankets, and you put some of the other blankets on top of you. You can't open a window after 6 o'clock in the evening because it's like having 6 air coolers going, air conditioners going full blast next to your ear. It's so cold outside. And if you close everything, you don't get any light at all. I mean, I used to experiment, open my eyes and close my eyes. I didn't know when it was open, when it was closed. Only sometimes you could see the static electricity jumping off your woolens onto the blankets, and nothing else. But it was a wonderful experience staying there. One day in the morning, I was sitting near the river. I'm watching it flow by, very fast and narrow, those who have gone there. And it was a beautiful thing, you could see the mountains. There was no snow where I was sitting because it was just after summer, but there were glaciers coming down the mountain sides, and there were huge mountains, like 18, 20, 21, 22,000 feet. Another yogi who used to stay in a little log cabin next to my place, the place where I was staying, he came and sat next to me. And he said this to me: the difference between a worldly mind and a spiritual mind. I'll first tell you in Hindi because that's how I heard it, and I'll translate for you. He said, Mahatma ji, yogi ka man aur vishay ka man mein fark pata hai? My dear Swami, do you understand the difference between the mind of a yogi and the mind of a worldly person? The worldly mind and the spiritual mind. You tell me. He said, look at the river. Now in the rainy season, the river, the Ganga in front of us, there is a lot of water. It's full of water, and it's flowing very fast. And he said it's very dangerous because if you put your foot in it, it's so fast it will simply sweep you away. You won't even live to understand what happened. And in fact, just the day before, a person had been swept away. And again, he said it's muddy because there are landslides at that time, and a lot of soil goes into the flowing river. So it's dark brown, brownish, and very fast and dangerous, and a lot of water. And then he said, आप अगर जाड़े में आएंगे, if you come in winter, यही गंगा को देखेंगे, you will see this very Ganga. There is very little water, mostly frozen. And the water is perfectly clear. He said there's a wooden bridge. He said if you stand on the bridge, javanni phek denge, pani ke niche aapko dikhai dega. If you throw a coin, you can read off the denomination on the river bed. It's so clear, like glass. And he said that it is not dangerous. We can walk across. Of course, you have to be careful. Your feet go numb if you step into that river. And the fourth thing he said was, the water is not muddy, it's so clear, you can drink it, you can offer it to somebody else to drink. Whereas in the rainy season when I was there, water you cannot drink yourself, you cannot give it to anybody else to drink. And he said this is precisely the difference between a spiritual mind and a worldly mind. He said, in a worldly mind, in an uncultured mind, a spiritually uncultured mind, you have many thoughts, just like this river has a lot of water. You have many thoughts. Somebody calculated that we have 16,000 different thoughts each day. in our waking hours. Different in the sense that individual discrete thoughts, most of the thoughts are repetitions, they're repetitive patterns. So I don't know if that's a good figure, but still, it's a huge figure. And he said, the yogi's mind has a few thoughts. A few thoughts. Not that he's dull, but the thoughts are very, very consciously taken and cultivated. So there are very few thoughts. And he said, just like this river flows fast, a worldly mind with the worldly concerns, it's very fast, it keeps changing all the time. Whereas a yogi's mind, it's not fast in that sense. There are no jerky, disconnected thoughts. And he says the river in winter actually stops sometimes. Sometimes there is a chunk of ice or a boulder which comes down and there's very little water, it actually stops. If you know yoga, you understand what he means to say. He means to say that yogi's mind sometimes goes into samadhi. It transcends the mind. And then he said, the thoughts of the yogi are pure. The thoughts in a worldly mind are impure. Anger, envy, lust, all sorts of negative thoughts. Whereas in yogi's mind, the thoughts are pure. Just like the river in winter and the river right now, which we are seeing, the muddy water and the pure as glass, clear as glass water. And finally he said, which was most beautiful, just like you cannot give this water you cannot drink this water, you cannot give it to anybody to drink. He said, in the same way, a person too much immersed in the world, he gets no peace, he or she does not get peace himself or herself, and creates waves of disturbance for others. Others do not get peace from that person also. We cannot live with ourselves, others can't live with us. Whereas a yogi's mind is such that it gives peace and joy to that person, and he or she radiates that peace and joy. Other people feel touched, feel uplifted. Those who have met some of the senior monks, you can understand this. There is a certain spiritual charm to these persons. You come into contact with them and you feel peace, you feel your mind lighten, you feel your mind uplifted. So this is the difference. And of course, the worldly mind is dangerous. It can take you anywhere, it can make you do things. I was reading this person, William Styron, a well-known novelist who wrote Sophie's Choice, I think. And he also wrote the Memoirs of Darkness. He was depressive. And there he writes in one place that I was going to commit suicide, somehow I was saved. And later on, today, I cannot think why I did that. Why I was going to commit suicide, I cannot think of any good reason. At that time, it seemed the right thing to do. It seemed the only obvious choice. So that mind can lead you anywhere. It can destroy you. Whereas the yogi's mind is not at all destructive or damaging. It is benign to that person and to others also. So it is a beautiful comparison between the yogi's mind and a worldly mind, a spiritually cultivated mind and a mind that has not been spiritually cultivated. So this is the first thing I want to leave with, this image I want to leave with you, the image of fast-flowing, muddy river in spate, and the image of this clear as glass water flowing slowly in winter. That's the kind of mind we aim to cultivate, whatever your religious persuasion. Especially in Vedanta, we aim to do that. How am I doing for time?
What's wrong with you?
5 minutes?
That's
Okay. 10 minutes. Okay. The second thing I want to tell you is a little story. What do you do with this mind? What is enlightenment? The story goes like this. This also I heard from a monk there in Gangotri in the Himalayas. There was this emperor in India. Indians know about it. Raja Janak. So Janaka was an emperor, and one day he had gone to sleep, and suddenly he was woken up by the sentries, the guards, and said, "Emperor, wake up, wake up! We are being attacked by the enemy. We need to go and defend the kingdom." So he quickly got out of bed and said, "Summon the generals and call up the army." And the army was called, the generals came and he put on armor and he went off to fight the battle against the invaders. and it was a ferocious battle. And he was defeated, he was wounded, captured, dragged before the invader. The invading king said, Janaka, you are a noble and just king, but your kingdom belongs to me now. I won't kill you, because you're a good man, but you are banished from your kingdom. Get out of your kingdom. Get out of this kingdom. You're not welcome here anymore. So what could he do? He stumbled out of the victor's tent. He was thirsty, he was hungry, he was bleeding from his wounds. He went to a house in his own capital. And the first house he went to, he asked for water. And the person came out, you are our emperor, but alas, we cannot help you now. The new ruler is very cruel. I'm sorry, I can't help you. What could he do? He walked. And he walked and walked and walked. 3 days later, he came to the border of his kingdom and he crossed over to the other kingdom. He was dying of exhaustion and of his wounds, suffering. And he was very hungry. And he saw this line of beggars. They were being fed by some charity. There was the food being khichdi. That is it's being handed out to the beggars and the tramps. He went into that line, a queue, and when he came to the head of the queue where the food was being given, unfortunately the food was finished by that time. And he couldn't take it anymore, but the person who was distributing the food, he said, Janaka, he didn't know him of course, he said, you seem to be of a noble family, a good person. Okay, there's this little gravy left over. I'll give you that. He said, okay, anything. And they gave him a bowl and they poured that little bit of gravy into his bowl. And when he was about to lift it to his lips with trembling hands, a kite swept down, dived from the air and knocked the bowl from his hands. It went rolling into the dust. And he fell down. In Hindi they said, ha ha ka karte hue. Now ha ha in Hindi or in Sanskrit means exactly the opposite of what it means in English. In Sanskrit it means ha-ha-kar means not the ha-ha in English, but it means alas. And weeping, he fell down into the dust weeping, and suddenly he sat up on his bed, sweating and trembling. The sentry is there. Emperor, is there anything wrong? You shouted. We would have said, oh, that was a dream, a nightmare. None of that was true. But being Janaka, a very insightful philosopher king, the first thing he said was, in Hindi, I'm again telling you in Hindi, ye sach ya wo sach. Is this true or was that true? Was I in a dream and I woken up, or that was real and I fainted and I'm in a dream now? Sentry didn't understand, he retreated, called the queen came rushing. What's the matter? Is this true or is that true? This true, that true, what are you talking about? And they called the doctor. Doctor said, are you feeling all right? Is this true or is that true? Yes, sach, ya, wo sach. Minister was called. Nobody could make out. He's just saying, is this true or is that true? Next day in the morning, he went to court as usual. He was sitting in all regalia and surrounded by ministers and soldiers and generals and advisors. The queen sitting next to him. And maybe people coming with files to be signed or something. But whatever they asked him, he said, is this true or is that true? Tell me that first. And the great sage Ashtavakra, he was in town. He was a very great sage. And when he came to the marketplace, he heard this, people were all, the rumors were already flying fast and thick. The king is off his head. He's lost his mind. So he said, okay, I've got to pay him a visit. The sage went to the court and he saw the king and asked, "Oh king, how are you? Oh emperor, how are you?" Emperor immediately said, "Is this true or is that true?" Then the sage, of course, was all-knowing and he knew what had happened, and he asked the king, "Oh king, when you were defeated in that battle and lying on that ground and weeping, were all these soldiers and your queen and your generals and your undefeated status and all this, was all this there at that time?" Janaka said, "No, it wasn't." And now, when you are sitting here in the midst of all your glory and power, surrounded by your queen and your generals and your advisors, the ministers and your subjects, that defeat, that pain, that humiliation, is that here now? No, it isn't. So neither that is true nor this is true. Neither that dream is not true. But neither is this waking, what we call waking. No, this is also not true. Janaka was horrified. Is nothing true? Is it all false? And then Ashtavakra said, in the midst of that humiliation, it's all false. But were you there? Did you experience it or not? Yes, I did. I was there. And right now, here in the court, are you here or not? Yes, I am here. Then you are true. Neither that is true, nor this is true. You are true. You are the truth. Na ye sach, na wo sach, tum hi sach. Now this and that includes not only the world which we see here and we see in the dream, not only this body, or the mind and the experiences, the emotions, the thoughts, all of that belongs to this or that. But the consciousness which witnessed the dream and the consciousness which is witnessing this experience which we are having now, that is the unchanging truth. That is what Vedanta teaches us. That is what we were praying in that Vesper song. Manovachanaikadha, the ground of our thoughts, of our language. Ujala Ridikanda, Jyoti Rajyoti, the light of lights. Consciousness is the light of lights. Is light here. It illumines everything. It does not require another. You need to switch on only one light. It will illumine the whole room and it illumines itself also. But your consciousness becomes aware of that light. It's an object for your consciousness. And your consciousness is not an object for anything. It is the light of lights, Jyoti Rajyoti. That light of lights we worship as God. That is what Advaita teaches you. The light of lights in your heart, the consciousness, which alone is true, which watches these changing states of waking and dream and deep sleep. This consciousness alone is true. This is unchanging. This is virtually the same as God. Thank you.